Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Garage, the Court of Public Opinion. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Peter Clayton is behind the camera. Thank you for joining us. And tomorrow, of course, in the dining room, on the table, live streaming, 9 o'clock until 12. Please tune in. We have some very interesting guests for you to meet. Marty Smith will be there. Leon Burney will be there. I want to get hold of John Burney to talk to him about this Middle Eastern thing as well, because he runs this very interesting think tank, but it's not so much a domestic think tank, it's an international one, which would give a lot more knowledge, his knowledge to this subject about where are we going to go with this Middle East crisis. Mind you, the Middle East has never really seen a time when there wasn't a crisis, one way or the other. I do believe that. We're getting very close to the day, the referendum voting day, by the way. If you haven't voted already, I have voted. Pete, have you voted?
Not yet.
No.
But I am handing out how to vote no, so I guess I'll vote at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And remember a couple of things. Well, there's a lot to remember, really, because it is a very important referendum and vote that you have. Remember, it is not the colour of our skin. It is the contents of our character. Okay? Voting yes is definitely racist. Let's go for character. Now, Burney sent me this, which I will go through tomorrow. It's not long, but it is a summary. It's a great summary of exactly why we should not vote yes and why we should vote no. And I'll go over it with you on Friday. But Burney has obviously collected, there are about, 5 or 6 paragraphs, sums it up perfectly. Thank you for doing that. A very interesting survey published in the Sydney Morning Herald. Most people will vote no in every state. But listen, it's got to be the majority of people in the majority of states. But listen to this. There are 29% of people who say they will vote yes. 29% of Australians, our fellow Australians, will vote yes without knowing or inquiring as to what it's about or what it means. Now, these must be the intelligent, well-educated, knowledgeable people that we were told were the yes voters. God help us. Well, not help us, help them. Help them. I tuned into Channel 7's Spotlight program on Sunday, last Sunday. The Last Pitch, it was called. Got to watch this, I thought. Must viewing. The host was Michael Usher. Opens the show with, "Before we start, I wish to acknowledge the original owners of the land upon which we broadcast." Well, that was it for me. Forget it. I turned off immediately. Nothing sensible could possibly have come out of that studio. We've got to stop this rubbish. We really do. We really do. The Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Linda Burney, has said on numerous occasions that she knows intimately all the problems and issues affecting Aboriginal people. Well, of course she would. Of course. So these people would have us believe that the voice if it came to her, the minister, and told her all of the things that she already knows, because she's already said she knows them all, somehow, because it was the voice telling her what she already knew, somehow she would be able to, or be energized to, or authorized to do something. Do something. Even though she already knew exactly what the problems were. I know. It's just that I can't do anything until the voice tells me. Do you honestly swallow any of this nonsense? This is crazy. Absolutely crazy stuff. Linda Burney will be removed as Minister for Indigenous Affairs. She is not competent. I'm sorry. One great thing on Sunday coming up will be that we can look at this government, this campaign. We can look it in the face and say, we were not intimidated. We were not howled down. We were not scared off. The might of the media, millions of dollars worth of advertising and propaganda, prime ministers, premiers assembled, the Greens, the Labour government, and even some Liberals. The might of the ABC, which is considerable, some 30 platforms or stations in every single city in this country. That's influence. You told us we weren't educated, sophisticated, or intelligent if we voted no. Well, you were wrong. Take your sinister agenda and rethink your future. I mean it. From the Prime Minister down. The no vote won't gloat. It won't. We'll just heave a sigh of relief until the next time. And there'll be a next time. These people won't go away. We were talking on jeremycordeaux.com on last Friday, among other things, this ridiculous $2 billion a year that we're giving to the Pacific nations. All of these little corrupt Pacific islands complaining that they need compensation. Compensation from Australia because they are sinking or shrinking, which is rubbish. Because they are growing in landmass. You can Google this. This is how I know. I Googled it. On average, 16% most years, not every year, but most years they grow 16% in size. There's no journalist who knows this apparently and is prepared to ask any questions about it or who will point it out. Growing or shrinking, however, I don't really care. Don't talk to Australia. 1% of global emissions, 1.3%. Why not send your demands to China and India, the big polluters? You wouldn't dare, would you? You wouldn't dare. You'd get very short shrift. I am thoroughly tired of it. We pay our taxes, and these idiots in Canberra fall for this sort of, there's no other word for it, extortion. $2 billion. And do you think if the water was coming up in the South Pacific, it wouldn't be coming up all over the world? You know, a rising tide lifts every boat. It goes on, it's everywhere. You know, the Opera House would be, you know, there'd be stories about the Opera House with, as I said to you a few weeks ago, water lapping at the front stalls of the Opera House, because it's right on the water. or all the billions of dollars of waterfront real estate. You could imagine the screams from those people. Not a peep. Look, this climate change is one of the great cons of the world, but we don't have a media savvy enough to point it out or ask any real questions about it. I don't know how universities allocate their research money. I'd like to know, however. I'd like to know who approves, particular projects. But this is a doozy. Queensland University have been studying the severity of sentences handed down to climate activists. This has been over the last couple of years. Why? Well, I don't know. Why? Clearly the slap on the wrist that's been going on before hasn't been working, so let's get serious. These are the people who have been hanging off bridges, delaying traffic, frustrating train travellers, motorists. They glue their hands to the road. They stick their hands with super glue to priceless works of art. And they say it's all about a certain hatred we have of oil and gas and the modern way of life, which of course they seem to enjoy just fine. You can't tell me that these idiots rode to these demonstrations on bicycles. Anyway, it seems the courts have been handing out jail sentences in the last couple of years, where they hadn't been doing that before. They'd been just issuing a fine. Well, golly, academics are outraged. In high dudgeon at the court system. Too severe, they think. Could it be that the courts are just reflecting the frustration and intolerance of the general public? I would think so. I'll do you a few dates.
Yes, it's back.
The fly's back. You don't suppose it's a bewitched member of the executive at 5AA, do you?
Maybe.
Well, look, you're not sabotaging me, dear friend. You're adding another ingredient to our podcast. That's fine. Yeah, before we do some dates, I want to throw to another little piece that Marcus sent me. This is one about culture. We get beaten over the head about culture. Someone's culture is important, and, to him or her it is, but, and it does get into things like multiculturalism. I think you'll be interested in it. I certainly was, I know that. Before I leave you, I will wish you a happy birthday and a happy wedding anniversary. October 12, my son Saxon's birthday. Happy birthday, Saxon. 1996. I must tell you the story how he got his name. There are not many Saxons around the place. I won't do it now, I'll do it another day. It is an interesting story. Anyway, 1999. It's the day of 6 billion people. It was proclaimed the day of 6 billion. For the first time in the world, we had 1999. How they would know that, but the 6 billionth person was born. And no, it wasn't Saxon. Oh dear, we're up to, I think, what is it, Pete? 8 billion?
8 now, I think.
Yeah, we don't have a climate problem, we have a population problem, actually. 1809, the children's rhyme, Three Blind Mice, is published in London in a book entitled or edited by, and possibly written by Thomas Ravenscroft, 1609. Three Blind Mice. Luciano Pavarotti, the Italian operatic tenor, the Three Tenors, and of course countless operas. He was born in Italy, died in 2007, born 1935. Christopher Columbus' expedition makes landfall on a Caribbean island that he named San Salvador, likely Watling Island in the Bahamas. The explorer believed that he had reached East Asia. Okay, that was 1492 on this day. Brian Cobby, British actor. Evita, The Nudist Story. I don't know about that one. The first male voice of the British-speaking clock. I like finding these obscure things for you. Can you imagine sitting there all day? At the third chime, it will be 1:03. At the fourth chime, it will... I don't believe any... How would you pay somebody to do that? Pete?
Well,
amazing.
I guess they must have.
Yeah. The first voice of the British-speaking clock. Born in Birmingham, in England. He died in 2012, born 1929. Hugh Jackman, Australian stage and screen actor and singer. The boy from Oz, X-Men, Wolverine, The Greatest Showman. Born in Sydney, Australia. I liked him in Oklahoma when he came here as a kid at the Festival Theatre. He performed Oklahoma brilliantly. He wouldn't have been more than about 18 or 19 at the time. Anyway, that was 1968 that he was born. 1915, the Ford Motor Company under Henry Ford manufactures its 1 millionth automobile at the River Rouge plant in Detroit. That was in 1915. Trevor Chappell, the Australian cricketer, all-rounder. What was he famous for, Pete? You're a cricketer.
Oh, the underarm bowl.
The underarm, that's the one. The underarm bowling controversy, South Australia. Born in Adelaide, South Australia, 1952. Steven Spielberg weds Kate Capshaw, his female lead in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1991. I don't know if they're still together. I hope they are. 1900, the first modern submarine is commissioned by the US Navy as the USS Holland. 1900 was the year. It was named after its designer, John Philip Holland. Wonder what it looked like. I'm sure there are pictures of it somewhere. And one more, 1916, James Charles, 17, becomes the first male face of makeup label CoverGirl. Yeah. Anyway, a few dates, ladies and gentlemen. Have a little look at this. As I say, Marcus sent it to me. I found it very interesting. It's not long, but it tells us all about culture. Thanks for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. Now, do join us tomorrow at the dining room table. We'll be there. The phone will be there. We'll have guests. Hopefully, we'll have you listening. 9 o'clock until 12. JeremyCordeaux.com, live streaming. And Australia's newest radio station. Believe in yourself. Have a great weekend. Oh, I'll give you a happy weekend wish tomorrow. But we'll see you soon. Believe in yourself. Goodbye for now.
Do you think the United States and Western Europe are made up of imperialist, colonialist, resource-exploiting, greedy, grasping, brown-skin-hating people whose values are not worth defending? If you think this question is absurd and that no one thinks this way, you would be very much mistaken. Many people do. And what's even more disturbing, many of these people were born and live in the West. In other words, they've come to despise their own culture. This thinking is the product of a doctrine widely taught in our schools. It's known as multiculturalism, the belief that all cultures are equal. Or to put it another way, no culture's values, art, music, political system, or literature are better or worse than any other. But is this really true? Some years ago, Nobel Prize-winning novelist Saul Bellow created a major controversy when he said, "Find me the Tolstoy of the Zulus or the Proust of the Papuans, and I would be happy to read him." For this, Bello was accused of racism. The charge was nonsense. Bello wasn't saying that the Zulus and Papuans are incapable of producing great novelists. He was saying that as far as he knew, they hadn't. But just by raising the possibility that some cultures have contributed more than others, he violated the chief tenet of multiculturalism. More recently, President Donald Trump expressed a similar sentiment in Warsaw, Poland. "We write symphonies, we pursue innovation, we treasure the rule of law and protect the right to free speech and free expression. We empower women as pillars of our society and of our success. That is who we are. Those are the priceless ties that bind us together as a civilization." For this, Trump was roundly condemned by the multiculturalists. How could he say these things, one writer wrote, as if these were unique qualities to white-dominated nations instead of universal truths of the human race across all cultures? Here's the problem. Are values such as innovation, rule of law, free expression, and women's empowerment equally held across all cultures? If all cultures are equal, how does one account for the fact that for the past 500 years, it has been one culture, the culture of the West, and now of America, that has shaped the world? Multiculturalists explain it in terms of oppression. Western civilization, they say, became so powerful because it is so evil. The study of Western civilization, they insist, should focus on colonialism and slavery, the unique mechanisms of Western oppression. But colonialism and slavery are not uniquely Western at all. They are universal. The British conquered India and ruled it for 300 years. But before the British, the Persians, the Mongols, the Muslims, and Alexander the Great had done exactly the same thing, conquered large parts of India. Indeed, the British were the 6th or 7th colonial invader to occupy India. As for slavery, it has existed in every culture. It was prevalent in ancient China, in ancient India, in Greece and Rome, and in Africa. American Indians practiced slavery long before Columbus set foot here. What is uniquely Western, in fact, is not slavery, but the abolition of slavery. And what distinguishes the West from all other cultures are the institutions of democracy, capitalism, and science. These institutions developed because of a peculiar dynamism of Athens and Jerusalem, a synthesis of classical reason and Judeo-Christian morality. And it is these institutions, I believe, that comprise the source of Western strength and explain the West's long-standing dominance in the world. The West's greatest strength is not merely its military power, but also the unparalleled power of its ideas and institutions. But what about America? If America is a nation of immigrants, mostly non-white immigrants, doesn't that by definition make it a multicultural society? No. America is a multi-ethnic society. We don't want it to be a multicultural society. I'm an immigrant from India. My wife is an immigrant from Venezuela. Despite our differences of ethnic background, we have both assimilated to the unique values of America, the values embodied in our Constitution and our laws, the pursuit of happiness, the American dream. So, no, the United States and Western Europe are not made up of imperialist, colonialist, resource-exploiting, greedy, grasping, brown-skin-hating people. Our values are worth defending, not just because they are ours, but because they are good. I'm Dinesh D'Souza for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. As a nonprofit, PragerU relies on donations from viewers like you. Please consider making a donation.